Wysteria, energy, twister. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and to the Encyclopedia of the Fae. We're now on invisibility because we're on the eyes. Although some people today may attribute this ability to newer folklore relating to fairy glamour, or even see it as evidence of fairies finding or fading in and out of the world, or finding a way to the world and from it, etc. The idea of fairy invisibility can be traced back over 1,000 years in Irish mythology. There's evidence of the concept in Irish myth for as long as we have evidence of the fairy folk themselves in those same stories. Sid Moore, Atam Conidi, Subidnon. Now, I can't read this because it's it's in another language. But basically from the text like that, 1,000 years ago, they're based on material that could be even more older than what they're stating. And they're unreadable to me. But I guess if we translated it, a single man coming towards us now, oh, Cuchulainn. But none advance on him, and he advances on no one, as if no one saw him in all the camp of the 4 grand provinces of Ireland. The man coming there, oh, fosterling, said he is to me a friend from the fairy troop. But as you see, even if we translate it, it's hard to comprehend, right? But it's talking about people of the sea coming to interact with people in our world, but remaining unseen by those who they didn't want to see them. Cuchulainn's friend among the sea walks through the encampment of the men of Ireland. The army, who at the time was fighting against Cuchulainn and Ulster, unimpeded, and, as Lake relates, unseen. Conna's fairy women, who has come to court him and tempt him to join her in the sea, appears next to him and talks to him, but only he can see and hear her until she chooses to speak to his father. There are other similar stories in other texts, including the appearance of a rider from the fairy mounds in Italy, in the Trochmark Italy, and of the fairy woman Fidlam in Tembo Cuchulainn. In the exact same way, we find tales in later folklore of people of the fairy hills who appear to be only letting specific people see them, but not all people. We find this power to go unseen among the Tuatha De Danann, as well as the fairy folk. But there is some persuasive evidence that it is an ability that the fairies had first. This power seems to have come from the Tuatha De Danann, from their connections to the good neighbours, and particularly from Manannan's gift of the faith fiata. Yes, it's a magical mist or veil. It's like an enchantment, that keeps us from seeing the fae, them from seeing us, but they can use it as and when they like. The next is iron. So iron is most often referenced protection against fairies, although, let's be honest, it's ambiguous, isn't it? Several types of fairies or appear to be immune to it, and a few others make use of it themselves, like the red cap, which is said to wear iron-toed shoes, despite that iron is known to ward off many kinds of fairy beings, as well as human ghosts and some other types of malevolent spirits, apparently. Reverend Kirk asserts that there is nothing that frightens dangerous spirits more than this metal, speculating it's because iron is found in the earth. By its location reminds them, well, it reminds them of their fate, where they ended up. Even dreadful fairies who are considered to be of the worst, iron helps, and even helpful fairies, helpful fairies that choose to be around humans, including fairy wives, can be driven off apparently by iron. Do not take that literally, guys, and I'm going to explain why. There's a lot of people that say, oh, iron gets rid of the fairies, and like simply an horseshoe, for example, an iron horseshoe. Actually, I've not seen any evidence of that because we've always had iron horseshoes in our family. My grandma had them from being very young. And she never said it was to ward off the fae, only to ward off the real negative spirits. The fae use iron and they actually live where iron is generally from. So don't take the iron to heart. It may not be of no use to you. The next is Isabel Gowdy, one of the most famous and controversial witches of Scotland. Isabel Gowdy lived in the 17th century, was brought to trial for practicing witchcraft. Unlike other accused witches, Isabel, by some accounts, seemed to have confessed voluntarily, and certainly did so in great detail, admitting not only to the stereotypical activities expected of European diabolic witches, but also of consorting with fairies, feasting with the Queen and the King of Elfland, being given elf shot by the fairies, which she was told to use against other humans. Isabel claimed to have done as much good as harm with her magic, unusual in a time when people brought to trial tended to either defend themselves as helpful, cunning folk or capitulate entirely under torture and confess doing great harm. Her stories of meeting with the monarchy of the fairy and her descriptions of the queen and king are in line with the wider folklore of the period time. And we did do about her in the witch trials, the second half of the witch trials on my podcast or on YouTube. You can see it. We did about Isabel and how fascinating she was because she literally went to every trial room and happily told of her stories of going to fairyland, and they were so enthralled by her, because of the details that she gave regarding all of this. So yeah, it was one of those very interesting cases that it did take the courtroom by storm. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Fairies, and many blessings.
Wysteria, energy, twister.